Hey, my name is Michaela Crumley, and for my story, I'm going to tell you about the murder of Susan Powell. Before we get started, I just want to tell you that I'm not crazy and I am obsessed with true crime podcast, though I was introduced to true crime and true crime podcasts about a year and a half ago by my old co-grad, Lee Belmont, who is obsessed with them. And so from there, I started listening to podcasts, but not only listening to the podcast, researching what the podcasts are about and the stories in the podcast, just so I can have as much information and background while I'm listening to the podcast. So I'll go ahead and get started. So in 2006, Josh Powell killed his wife, Susan Powell, in Utah. To this day, Susan's body has never been found, which is really crazy. But what really intrigues me about this story and about this case is that Susan and Josh were Mormons, and so were their family. And I don't know a whole bunch about Mormonism, and so listening to this podcast, I've had to do a lot of research about Mormons and why it made this case so interesting. Mormons do document everything they do, so a lot of the things in this podcast are straight up videotapes of Susan or Josh or their friends and family, or handwritten letters or emails or text messages, just because they journal or document everything they do in their day and their thoughts and their feelings, just as part of their faith and religion. So let me answer the questions that you asked before I get started into this story. I guess my comfort level with research, I've never conducted actual significant research. I've just done research, on podcasts to learn more about them, or which apartment complex I would like to live in, or which brand of bread is the best. So it's really the only research I've done. I don't really know if I prefer qualitative or quantitative research, just because I've never had to actually use it for something significant or valuable. But I think once I'm in this course, I will definitely figure out which one I like best and which one I don't like as much. So I think those answer your question. So I'll go ahead and get started with the story. So as I mentioned, Josh Powell killed his wife, Susan Powell, in 2006, and her body has never been found. And that is because there are so many mine shafts in Utah that, there are thousands and thousands of one, that within the time frame that he killed her, or that he is missing, he could have gone anywhere, and she could be 1,000 feet underground, and there's just no possible way for the authorities to check that. And one of the crazy things about this is that when he killed his wife, they had two little boys, Charlie and Braden. He killed them in front of Charlie and Braden. And what's really interesting is, when the police questioned the boys, where did you, mommy and daddy, go that day? And they keep saying, mommy's with the flowers. And so one place that they kept checking were state parks and places that had a lot of flowers. And then at one point they said she was with the Pretty Rocks, and there was a mine shaft named something Pretty Rock. And so they checked there but couldn't find her. So they checked everywhere, and they still cannot find Susan. And this was in 2008 when she was killed. So what is the crazy thing, although the authorities know that he killed her, there's no body, so they can't prove it. They still allowed him to have custody of their two children, Braden and Charlie. And in 2012, the authorities confiscated all of his computers, and they found porn that was incest of cartoon characters, so they were going to arrest him on the grounds that maybe some things are happening at home that shouldn't happen. So they were going to arrest him, and he found out. And he set the house on fire with him and the two boys in it, and wind up killing all of them. And turns to find out the porn on the computer wasn't his, it was the previous owner's. So the boys could still be alive if he didn't know that. But yeah, that is the story of Susan Powell and the loss of her two children. So after doing all the research on the Susan Powell case, I've really learned that I am the kind of person that likes to know every detail so that I can have the full picture. But yeah, that is it. I really hope you learned or enjoyed learning about the Susan Powell case. Have a good day.